Hello there, it's me Tom, and today we're going to be taking a look at my project for the song Laputa, which I put out last month. You can find it on this channel, and this is one of 4 videos going in and looking at the project and just sort of telling you some of the thought processes behind the things that I did and why I did them. So in this video we're looking at drums. Obviously I've set off samples and drums into 2 separate videos, but obviously, and there's lots of samples in the drums, but they deserve 2 different videos, I think. So if I solo out the percussion section here, the high-low snare reverb, and then I think it's this break, as well as this break. There should be all the drums. This one as well, I'm not sure. So let's just take a listen to what we got. So this is the main groove. So if I take away all this percussion, you're left with just the break, I believe. So this main break is a big driving force behind the track, and it was a bit of a weird one. I had to go through a lot of processing over a lot of different occasions with this. So let me just talk you through. The first thing I want to mention about it is that I had to chop up everything. That's my cat. I had to chop up everything into individual hits because when I wanted to mix the snare down, I had no control over that. So my advice immediately would be, if you're going to use a break, make sure you cut it up into individual pieces. It will save you a lot of time, because I'd laid out all of this stuff with variations and fills and stuff, and my snare was too loud, so I had no control over that whatsoever, other than EQing it. So yeah, make sure you separate your parts up. So if we look at the processing on this, we'll start off with a compressor. I think what I'll do is if I just solo out these drums. So we started off with this compressor. If I just turn off all these other effects and run this into the master output, because what I've done with these 2 tracks is processed the high and the low end separately. So they both run off this audio track here. So here it's a lot weaker, but if I bring this up a bit. So this first compressor just sort of hits on some of the hi-hats here, brings them down a bit. You can see it's got a really fast attack and release. And this was to deal with just some of the kind of hissing and the kind of unpleasantness I didn't like in this break. And then we move to the saturation, and then you can hear things really kind of come out. They got a lot crisper, obviously a lot louder. Something to be aware of when you're using saturation or any kind of distortion, really. I've put a lot of drive into that. Then I used another compressor after that, because the snare was getting quite violent, as well as the kicks. I'm not too sure about this one, looking back on it though. And it adds a lot of makeup gain because I've left the makeup on, and then I pulled it down. So I think, as I say, I remember going through lots of different stages of this processing, and I think at somewhere along the lines I got a bit confused with that. But moving on, we have the RX4 denoiser, and this is a godsend. This plugin is amazing. So what this does is remove the noise. So you can hear there's a lot of kind of hum, and one of the things I noticed when I really brought it up in volume is I could hear this horrible hiss. You'd need quite high-end speakers to do it. I'm not sure we'll hear it through YouTube, but safe to say this, you just go out and find a bit of your noise, it listens to it, and then it says, look, I'm going to take that out of everything. Now, it was kind of annoying because it overlapped with the hi-hats a little bit, so I did have to be wary of that. So you'll see, like, the threshold here is quite weak and the reduction's quite extreme, but it's not always ideal to use this kind of a plugin on a break if you're going for the kind of more lo-fi sound, but I wanted something cleaner. You can hear that gets a lot more sloppy without it. And then I think this filter is just used for some automation, so in the end I didn't actually end up using it. But if I wanted to bring my break in and out with this kind of like, well, you know what a low pass filter coming in and out sounds like, that's, that effect. So then we sent this track into these other auxiliaries here. So starting off with the low end, we've got pretty extreme processing. Obviously I'm going to have to turn this down a bit. You can see I've really booted the hell out of the low end. Now this is something that's a sign of a mix EQ and not a master EQ, as you can see, because that's 15 decibels of gain. And obviously the idea when you're splitting the two channels like this is to have the what is it, low pass filter, because it's going for lows, and the low pass filter, and then when we move to the high track we'll have cut that. Sometimes I sort of bring some of the lows into the highs and stuff. It doesn't have to be the exact same frequency. It just depends on the break and the kind of sound you're going for, although you know it can get muddy and stuff, but that's really only a problem in the lower frequencies, so you know maybe I would have put that a bit higher, but obviously I decided it was fine. It's kind of weird, this series, because I'm kind of just looking back at some of my mixing decisions and thinking so it's good to take a critical look at your own mix a couple of weeks after you've dropped it. That's the thing I'm learning right now. So I've compressed this as well, compressed the low ends. Let's take a look at that. So if we just get rid of this, let's see. That's what it sounds like without the EQ, and then let's get rid of saturation. I've also set this to be a mono because it's the low end and it was getting quite busy, and I thought it was just a lot more straightforward to have this in mono so I could get a better feel for the stereo space with the other elements of the track. So this compressor, as you can see, it's working pretty hard but quite slow, so you get the natural initial dynamic, but then afterwards it will react and just kind of bring it down a little bit so it's not, you know, overpowering the rest of the elements, because it's quite a gentle track, so you know you've got to keep it balanced. So moving on to the high end, this is what we've got. As you can see, I've actually low passed this twice, once before processing and then once after saturating, just because you know you get some of these overlapping frequencies, especially for reverb and stuff. It can bring out a lot of weird lows. So I've boosted here to bring out the hi-hats. This is always a weird one, especially if you're using lots of extra percussion, but about here was where I found my sweet spot for this break. And then I applied some saturation, because saturation really just gives the sound of kind of gritty low end that I was going for. This all sounds quite extreme when it's been turned up, but reverb, the nice thing, and probably one of the main reasons that I split my break into low end and high end, is that I can apply reverb to the high end exclusively without worrying about the muddy lows that I just talked about. So reverb on breaks, it's not a thing you do in every track, but you know, when you're trying to create atmosphere, it really works quite nicely. So if we just listen to the whole break now with all that processing again. And the reverb here isn't too big, you know, the decay time's less than a second, but I've given a good bit of pre-delay so you get a good feel of the break before it's drowned in reverb. So, you know, if I brought that all the way down, so here, it kind of all gets mixed in, it's kind of weird, but just a bit of pre-delay so we can get a feel for what it would sound like dry, and then it kind of gives us an idea of the size of the room. Moving on, we'll just take a quick look at the other break. This is already turning into a lot longer video than I thought it would be, but that was the main bulk of the track. This is for the breakdowns and the introduction, so actually let's listen to it in context. So you can see, you know, I've automated this one with a bit of low pass filtering, and I've also automated the gain a bit because it was a bit haphazard. As you can hear, you got those big crashes and stuff. And this was a very delicate section of the song. Because this is the mixed version, it's actually quite quiet. But there you go. So for the processing on this break, you can see I've cut out a bit of the low end. Well, the kind of really impactful bit at the low end. So if you're listening to this on a subwoofer or something, you kind of really feel the lower hertz when I want you to in the me section of the song. I've kind of really, you know, butchered the low end a little bit here, just to kind of really take away some of the weight. I want it to be kind of light, but still have the kind of, you know, groove that I maintain across the track. It's just it doesn't need to be too impactful. A bit of compression. Again, a longer attack time on this one, and actually it's not working too hard. You probably won't see it react with just a few bars. I'm sure it comes up somewhere. And then what else? Yeah, that's pretty much it, apart from this flanger. So this flanger is like, I don't know, let's listen to it without it, just to get a feel. So this kind of moving element to the sounds adds a bit of mystery to it, I think, and also like it's just a different effect that really kind of distinguishes it from this main break. So I'm a big fan of flanges and phasers at the moment. The effects you can pull off with them are really interesting and unique, I think. Well, not unique actually, they've been around for years, but it's something I use a lot, so now it's something I'm just sort of toying around with, I guess, as I work out a new sound. So we'll move on to the percussions. This is all our shakers and weird little bits to the side. They really just kind of fill up the track and give a lot more kind of rhythm to it, and just a lot more character, I think. So with the shaker, I cut out the really kind of sharp high end bit here because I wanted it just to feel a bit softer. So if I just turn this band off and this band, we got that kind of grittier feel to it, which I didn't really want colliding with other bits of percussion because this was supposed to sort of sit around the kind of 5k range here. So yeah, shakers are really cool. You can use them in almost anything, and they really have a nice groove to them. It's something you can really feel. So moving on, we got this kind of glitchy percussion. Now this like was, I think, really characteristic. I think when I heard this sound, I really knew what I wanted to do with the percussion, because you've got the kind of normal sounding stuff in that and the break, but then you've got something that's just a little bit weird and kind of sets you off a bit. So the way I achieved this was with warping it quite a lot, and there's a bit of pitch automation. I think this is inside the clip. Yeah, there you go. So it's kind of like shooting all over the place in pitch, and it's been stretched out a fair deal as well. And in actual fact, it is just a wood loop, I think, from the sample library. Just gives you a better idea what the pitching is doing. It sounds pretty hilarious. But then that teamed up with, you know, the right amount of EQing. It just sounds really nice. I didn't even have to do that much to it. I thought I might want to apply reverb or something, but it sounds quite nice, dry in there. Just as a kind of effect sound, I guess. Then we've got this delayed, I think it's a bell, is it? Yeah, it's a cowbell. So, and this was just one of the really nice soft touches on the track. Just kind of, it's one of these things you bring in sort of every few bars or so, and it just sort of says, look, something's happening, there's something fresh here. So you haven't just got the same kind of static thing, and it's something you can play around with a lot as well. And it's delayed, so there's another bit of rhythm there. So I've automated this EQ in and out. Oops. So that at the end here I can have it just be a bit softer. It's very subtle, but you know, when I was trying to write the outro to this, I really wanted to bring that down. So I think that's pretty much it for the percussion. Oh yeah, there's just one more thing, which is this snare reverb thing here. So I wanted at the end of the section this big kind of hit. And actually I ended up scaling this down loads. Does it even still have reverb on it? It might be... Oh, that's right. What I did was I processed the snare, I recorded it with reverb on, and then I stuck it in a track. I can't remember why I did that. Maybe it was like a CPU thing. But I think it was also to do with measuring up the tail of the reverb. But yeah, it was just kind of like, you know, I didn't want to drown this in reverb, but I still wanted that last hit, which you can't really get with a break. You can, you know, turn up the audio or whatever, but you know, if you want to uniquely process it, you get the more kind of dramatic effects you would get if an actual drummer hit it harder. So yeah, that's the drums for you. I think that was quite a lot longer than I thought it would be, so I sort of rushed it towards the end. But if you have any questions about that, please let me know. Apart from that, I'll get to the next video.